Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Samhain is an ancient Celtic festival marking the end of the harvest and the onset of the deep, dark winter. Celebrated from October the 31st to November the 3rd, it was believed during that time the boundary of the veil between the living and the dead in the world was thinnest, allowing the spirits to cross over, or if you're in Sligo, to carry on as normal. The Celts lit bonfires and wore costumes to ward off these spirits. As Christianity spread, Samhain's traditions merged with All Saints' Day, creating All Hallows Evening, or All Hallows Eve, evolved into Halloween. This modern holiday blends pagan and Christian elements, focusing on supernatural themes, community activities, like trick-or-treating, costume parties. Over the years, Samhain and Halloween have been shared and adapted by various cultures, from Pagan, Romans, to the Christians and other religions. Modern pagans still observe Samhain as a sacred festival to honour ancestors and nature. On tonight's show, we'll be looking at why Samhain was a critical time for the Celts to gather crops and prepare for the long winter ahead. The thinning veil between the worlds provided a unique opportunity for communication with ancestors and spirit, and again, those in Sligo. And tonight we'll hear about stories and myths and legends and all of those other things involved with Samhain and Halloween. Bonfires and disguises, bonfires, all to come on tonight's show. And to explain and unveil all things Samhain and Halloween, welcome the Warlock of Wexford and a real-life pagan Celtic witch gets the Gallivanting.ie, Lorraine O'Dwyer.
Blessings, Joe. Blessings.
All Chirov, Connor Sitatu.
Let's miss you come on.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to tonight's show. There we go. It looks a little bit better. I am the Wexford Warlock, otherwise known as Big Joe Shep, founder and head of live streaming. Or shall I say live screaming? Oh, I know. It's not I promised tonight I would tell no crappy dad jokes, but it's probably not the only one we'll get through after this afternoon we chatted through. Joe Shepherd, head of live streaming and founder at Livestream Solutions. And I am joined by the fantastic Lorraine O'Dwyer. Lorraine, how are you?
All good, Joe. All good. Getting ready to bed down now for the winter.
Absolutely. As ever, before we start, we welcome to everybody. We'll tell you what I have to do. I need to connect the chat. So wherever you look, we've already got somebody. Oh, I can't. Oh, look, we've got a Facebook user on there, and I'll move. See, it's one of the things you can do in a fancy studio like this. You can adapt, but I can't see the person's name behind this, so we'll have to move stuff around in a minute. But you're welcome. You're welcome. Hi, folks. Again, Facebook doesn't allow us to see exactly who you are until afterwards. It's just one of those things, crazy. But you're welcome to tonight's show. We've got an awful lot to go through, but as ever, we want to say a few thank yous to everybody. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here tonight. To OneStream Live, who provide the virtual studios for us, and all of the graphics team tonight. So to the team there, thank you very, very much. And very briefly, before we get started on all things Samhain and Halloween and paganism and all the rest, Lorraine O'Dwyer, tell us very briefly about Taste Wexford and Gallivanting.ie. Who are they? What do you do?
Well, Taste Wexford is all the lovely food producers and farmers and drinks here in Wexford, and many of them have actually opened their doors for visitors during the summer months. And there's events and things like that running throughout the year as well. And then Gallivanting is my business. So I am a banfassa and witch, and I bring people for wandering, whimsical walks through woodlands and show them the magic of nature. So, and I do workshops as well, making up lotions and potions and notions and things like that as well. So brilliant things to do.
Absolutely superb. Right, I've now, by magic, moved the moving pumpkin, so I might be able to, but there we go. Facebook user, hi, Lorraine, hi, Joe, hi, Lorraine. Great. And then this is hi, folks. Oh, so that I think is Nick Gaffney. Nick, oh, you two should meet and chat because you all things paganism, sound, all historical folklore. Top girl is our Nick, and it was Shirley, I think, is the first one that was up. You're welcome, lads, to tonight's show, and we're going to start off. I'm going to ask Lorraine to run us through. Right, so Samhain is one of 4 seasons we have in Ireland. And
that's right.
What we need to do is, can you explain that briefly? How our season in Ireland is broken up, and what Samhain is?
So, if you imagine the seasons as a wheel with 4 quarters, and at each quarter there's a festival. So, in the spring, in February, we have Imbolc, and Imbolc is all about spring, life coming into the world again, food growing everywhere in the forest appearing, milk being produced by the cows, and fishing season starting, things like that. And then the wheel continues turning, and we come to Bealtaine in May, and this is all about the beef. This is all about the cows, and it's all about fire, a big fire festival, very, very similar to Samhain. It's that secondary pivot point there on the wheel, and it's all about the land kind of just producing food everywhere, because the land is a big mother now. She's a mother goddess providing food everywhere. And then the wheel turns a little bit further, and we come to Lunasa in August, and at this the land gives birth to the harvest. Everything's there, and then she goes into menopause and she moves into Samhain. And Samhain is the summer's end. So Samhain is the end of the year. And this is the final harvest of fruits, nuts, and berries. It's the time to kind of prepare yourself, because the Cailleach, the ancient crone goddess, is going to take over the land now, and the ice and the snow and the rain. And we have to shelter until 3 months from now. We'll be at February, and the spring goddess will return.
You're absolutely superb. I'm just looking there on Facebook and on YouTube, seeing where we are at with everything as you're discussing that. Right. Celtic, pagan, Celtics, pagans, witches. So explain to us a little about you and where you're from, and your background into how you became a Celtic pagan witch, because that's phenomenal.
Well, I suppose I was very lucky in that I grew up in a home where we were all a little bit odd. So my great grandmother was a Banfassa, and my great aunt was a Banfassa, Etna, and my mum has a touch of magic about her as well. That woman's amazing in the garden. So I grew up with it. I grew up with paganism. But having said that, I suppose like most Irish kids, you grow up and you go to Irish schools, and they're all Catholic schools. At least they were back in the 80s. And so I learned about Catholicism as well, but I came completely out of the broom closet, completely as an out-and-out pagan in the early 90s when I was about 14 or 15. And since then, it's amazing how it's changed. And I think actually a lot of people would identify as being pagan these days. It's basically an earth-based spirituality, really, when it comes down to it. And for years, I worked in hospitality, and I loved my job in hospitality. I've worked in various places, hotels, reservations, tour operators, like loads of things. And then COVID happened. And like most of us during COVID, we turned to the outside, and I was spending all my time outside, but I was gathering things to keep, viruses at bay and to help with stress. And I'm talking to the people that I'm meeting on the walks, and I'm going out with friends, and my friends were like, people will want to know this. So after COVID finished, I unfortunately had to sell my vehicle. I was a driver guide, and I had to sell it, and I wasn't sure what to do. So I decided to start bringing people out on walks and teaching them. And to my surprise and delight, there are literally thousands and thousands of people around Ireland and around the whole world that are on a very similar path. And it seems that as we grow to, as the climate crisis grows, more and more people are actually turning to paganism. I think I think it's actually very, very helpful in this crazy modern world we live in.
Yeah, absolutely. How much does in your role does nature play, and therefore the lunar cycles and all of that as well?
Huge amount. Beside me here, my modern witch's cauldron. This is a slow cooker, and what's in here right now are an assortment of weeds, if you want, that I have picked in various places, and I have them brewing in oil, infusing in oil. But some of those plants have to be picked at certain times. So you might pick it at a full moon or whatever. But then just asides from that, like my business is called Gallivanting because I am riddled with ADHD. I was expelled from school when I was a teenager and told I was no good for nothing but gallivanting. So this is why I called my business that name. But if you suffer from any neurodivergent issues, spending time under the trees is incredibly important. And so from a health side of it, there's the nature. There's my work side of it, there's the nature. The religious side of it, there's the nature. Certain trees are very important to me. Like when I'm stressed, I will go find an oak tree to hug. If I'm worried about my children, I might find an elder tree to sit under. All these different ways of looking at nature as a ongoing practical asset in the very same way you might use a computer or you might use your kitchen. It's just there and it's there to be used in every way.
One of the things that we will go round that me learning this journey of Samhain and Halloween, and obviously I have two real interests in other interests. One is our Samhain and Halloween, and one is Christmas, Yule, Saturnalia, Sol Invictus, that whole period. And everything goes in full circle, doesn't it? So we started with paganism, Celtic pagans about 2,000 odd years ago, 4,000 odd years ago, whatever it was, and we had all of these, and it was more than just a religion. It was literally a daily way of life where everything affected.
Everything. So
I almost think there's three worlds. There's the living world, there's the world of the dead, and there's the world in between, which is permanent. So earlier in the season, during the good months, you've got the fairies that like people in downtown Newbury in Berkshire. I say that because Jill will be happy for a shout out for her home place. The fairies in the meadows there would be different, but actually they'd be looking to try and find a partner from the living world. But come this time of the year, Jesus, I can't even say that word now, can I?
Well, think about where we are in the calendar. If you go out and inspect the bushes over Samhain with your bow, the inevitable will happen, but the child will be born at Lunasa at harvest time, and it'll be getting a little bit. It may not be quite as hardy as you'd want it by winter coming in, but it won't be a newborn anymore, So it makes sense that the fairies be looking to play with somebody this time of the year.
So there we go. Right, coming up, we are going to look at some of the shared traditions that we mentioned at the beginning of the show over the year between pagans and other religions. We'll have a quick look at the from Mexico and from Latin America with the Del de Muertos, early pagan origins. We will be looking at some of the stories and myths behind. We'll be looking at banshees and Dulhan and there's a story about Jesus. There's a story you were telling me this afternoon that I want you to include about a place not too far from where we live, because she says Jill will be driving through this now at about 120 miles an hour, just in case any of the spirits are over there. But you're welcome to the show from across the globe. We know that at least tonight we've got people in Spain, we've got people in Italy, we've got people in America, we've got people in Ireland, we've got people in the UK and elsewhere. You're all very, very welcome, and the show will be available on Catch Up. Whoops. And going out next Thursday as well, actually on Samhain itself. But if you want to run your own Halloween party, then our good friends at OneStream Live, you can do this.
This Halloween, something wickedly exciting awaits you at OneStream Live. Will you be brave enough to choose? Choose your path. Will it be a trick or a treat? Only one way to find out. Pick your destiny and unlock surprises for your streaming journey. Enter if you dare this Halloween at OneStream Live. This Halloween.
So there you go. Go to onestream.live and you can create everything that we've created tonight and have your own Halloween party. And go to livestreamsolutions.org and ask myself or one of my team, and we will, if you've got a business. The whole idea is this is it's a bit of fun, it's a bit of crack, it's telling the story, it's dispelling some myths. We are very privileged to have a real life Celtic pagan witch with us in Lorraine. And please check out Taste Wexford, what her and Chef Anthony do, which is phenomenal for all your events. And I make no apologies for promoting what they do, because it's phenomenal. And as ever, I've used everything that they do. So we have been on the walks. We went recently on a bat walk. It was great.
Yes, that's right.
It was absolutely so. So all of these things. So Gallivanting.ie, there is so much, and there is so much more coming with live shows on the site, but you physically got to go. And one of the foraging and folklore tours that Lorraine does for everybody. So what do we know? Shared traditions across the globe. So we know that this has come from the Celtic pagan traditions and the reasons behind that. The Romans, sort of when they took over, and Christianity then came in, but the Romans themselves had sort of two kin festivals around this time. Pomona was one of them, being is the goddess of harvest and fruits.
Yes, but that's it, harvest and fruits. Remember that, and one thing I really think that we really struggle to grasp in the modern world that we live in is just how important the harvest was. So when we talk about old pagan times, I mean, this goes back to hunter-gatherer times, because winter's moving in. Do you have enough food to survive? And if you have a bountiful harvest, it's cause for celebration, So the Romans absolutely were no different. And yeah, they're all harvest. The one thing we all have in common is that they're all goddesses celebrated at this time, which is pretty cool.
I love the way before that you liken it to sort of the time of the year, liken it to the menopause.
Yeah.
And I know that you talk about some of the characters later. People are going to be blown away going, Jesus, how could she have been a saint? But when we talk about menopause, but you're quite right. We said to me this afternoon, men go through the same thing in a different stage of the year, but we call that the menopause. There we go. There's that joke number 2. I will promise I will try and stop. So yes, so went from the pagans to the Romans. The Christians sort of took over really and inculcated an awful lot of that in. But around the globe, though, I mean, when the Christians brought in Pope Gregory III, I think it was, brought in All Saints Day on the 1st, and then All Souls Day on the 2nd. So we get that. How did that transition through?
Well, Samhain, as I said, it's that really important point of the year that you're going to survive. So having such an important festival means that it's very well established within the culture. And when Christianity came to Ireland, there was a crossover period. It was called Celtic Christianity. So the two kind of blended together. That's why we have things like holy wells with fairy trees and things. The two blend together quite a lot here. One of the stories that is told is how there was a huge bonfire lit on the Hill of Tara on the 31st, or in and around this on Samhain, and the idea was that every hearth fire was extinguished everywhere in the whole of the island. Now, just imagine this for a moment. This is so cool, because you have this in the center of the island on the Hill of Tara. A huge fire is lit, and from it, people are watching from a distance, and they light their fires, and it spirals out across the island till it goes all the way down to the coasts of the island. But the rule was that the first fire to be lit would be the one on the Hill of Tara. And St. Patrick himself, apparently, the story goes, is across the way on the Hill of Ward and lights a fire first, kind of establishing Christianity into Ireland. But, even the fact that St. Patrick does it at Samhain shows how significant Samhain was in the society at the time. So you can't just get rid of it. This has been there for thousands of years. It'd be like somebody coming into Ireland now and saying, we're getting rid of Paddy's Day, or we're getting rid of Christmas. You can't just get rid of something that's that embedded in the culture. So you adapt it, you take it into your own. And, Samhain is about the time when the veil is thin. And so our ancestors are about, so it's All Saints Day, you know, and then it's the All Souls, and it's the idea that the land of the living, the land of the dead, and the land of the gods, which was all recognized on Samhain night, are now recognized over a period of a few days. So it's not that much further away from what it was. And remember that, you know, a lot of the early Christians, you know, people like St. Kevin up in Glendalough and stuff, we'd call them druids these days. They weren't what we would think of as a priest or whatever today at all. Much more connected with nature. God was everywhere, and you know, so Samhain over the years may well have adapted and changed, but it's still Samhain. It's still the same point where we're going into winter. It's that same opportunity to pause and to make sure that everything is ready. Everything's ready, so we have ensured our survival. And
it's this full circle like we have in the year in our 4 seasons here, split into 2. You know, the lights and the darks, and we've got 2 mid ones in between, and everything is a full circle in life and goes a full circle. You know, and we think we're all important in our little tiny bit of speck of time on this earth, and actually we realise that, you know, your God's better than my God's better than your God, my job's better than your God, I've got a bigger God than you, and Jesus, catch yourself on that. You've only got, you know, lads, you've only got one. But the whole full circle thing goes, and actually in Ireland now, I feel that we're coming back. You know, I'm not getting into sort of anti-religion type things because I was born a Christian, but we are going full circle where we've had that, especially the Roman Catholicism bit, controlling bit, and we're coming back now. If you look at the Magnus Parade in Galway, and Puka being Irish for Squealga for ghost, up in Derry, they're huge, aren't they? You know.
Yeah, and like I would love to see now, and like this is one of the challenges, because this is one of the kind of catch-22 situations where we are now at Samhain. Samhain was always about fire, fighting away off the darkness for the night and celebrating the harvest. And yet here we are in a bit of a climate crisis. So is it right to light a fire? You know, but I would love to see the fires lit on the Hill of Tara again, like they are at Ishnok, at Bealtaine 6 months from now. I would love to see fires restart. And like, you know, we've done a lot of community events here in Gorey and stuff around Bealtaine. We have our May bush and that we decorate, that the council plant or helped us plant and all of that. And you know, it's an opportunity for older members of the community to talk about their experiences growing up, celebrating these festivals. And I would love to see that in Samhain, because I remember going to bonfires as a child. But, you know, in a world of health and safety, I think, you know, it's a little bit sad. But I often say to people, light a fire on Samhain night, even if we're not supposed to, even if it's just a candle, you know, just light some fire. And like, again, like the pumpkins and things, get the fires lit.
And we're going to come on to pumpkins and the fact that for our American friends watching it, and I will just point this out again, this is not anti-religion, this is not pro this, it's not, this is just a bit of crack, lads. This is a bit of, you know, this is
I sure look at the end of the day, we all have 101, and even in witches, because you have this umbrella. And under the umbrella, they say they're called traditions. So you have Wiccan, you know, you have hedge witchery, you have solitary, you have the druids, you know, and like, so yeah, like it's madness. It's madness. So, at the end of the day, I think the only thing that really matters is Earth. You know,
that's exactly what it is. And if people look why I'm looking around, it's because I'm monitoring YouTube and I'm monitoring Facebook, because not all the messages are coming through into my studio. So we've got some people, Mel McVeigh, hi Lorraine, Mel from the US.
Hi Mel.
Mel, you're well. Nick Gaffney is there. Shirley Taunton up in Dublin. Hi, it's Shirley. Shirley, I hope that you and Lewis are well. Nick Gaffney, hi Joe, thanks for the invite in the little intro. You're welcome. Dylan Lawler, hello from Glasgow. Dylan, Kyle and Connor. So there's lots on, and another one from Nick Gaffney there. I'll read it. I'm reading off Facebook, off my 3 things open here. I feel it's more of a Celtic tradition and revival, Nick Gaffney says. We are recognising the importance of our own traditions and starting to embrace them again, particularly as people move away from the Catholic Church in particular, Nicola. And I think that's where it is that that's the point I'm trying to make. As as we have 4 seasons in the cycle, so the cycle goes round, and I think we are getting back. Brilliant what you said before about, especially post-COVID, we are coming more back to embracing each other and nature more.
Well, that's it. And these festivals, they actually give us, in this busy, mad, crazy world we live in, they actually give us kind of like anchor points. So, you know, we're about to go into the madness of Christmas now. Like, because like, this is the thing. I'm a pagan. I celebrate Christmas. You know, I mean, like, what's not to love about Christmas? You know, and then we're going to have the misery of January, where we're all broke and being bombarded with ads for gyms and things like that. So Halloween or Samhain gives us that moment to kind of just take a breath after, you know, summer has passed now. You know, the summer gears pushed away, the winter duvets down, we get the fire pile in, get the heating oil in. You know, this is where we're changing now from salads to spuds. You know, this is that time just to take a moment and just to go, gosh, what did I do this summer? You know, and think about it and process it. Because the thing is about, we're going into the dark, and like, that can be in a spiritual, mindful way as well, that we're going in. And a lot of people will suffer from depression at this time of year as well. So it's a time to really kind of like really prepare yourself for winter. A lot of us are lucky and live in sunny places, but a lot of us don't. And like Dylan there in Glasgow, you know, it's going to be dark, it's going to be cold, it's going to be rainy nights. So it's, you know, it can affect your mental health. But taking a little moment to sit down and maybe consciously light a fire and consciously eat something from a local food producer just brings you into that moment. And it's incredibly important. And I think this is why the revival is happening, because people need it. They need it, you know, because we'll get to, you know.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. And we're, just before we go into, one of the things about live streaming is that you know, Dad Joke 3. Okay, yeah, the same one. Let's face it, I'm not a warlock. I'm never going to be. I mean, he spells it wrong. It should be an A. But there you go. Just who enjoys it, enjoys still being alive and being able to do stuff like this. But I get messages on my phone, and one of the things there, lads, put the messages up on YouTube and Facebook video, and we will get to them. I'm trying to sort of reply to those as Lorraine is speaking as well. But this goes across the globe. When we come back in just a second, we're going to talk about some of the religions and some of the things that really interest me as well. But another message: how do we get that? How do we get the studio thing that you talk about? Well, actually, this bit at the back there is where I live, me and Jill. And if you wait in just a second, you'll see it. There she is outside there, just flying down. I'll get no dinner tonight for that. But seriously, if you want to have your own Halloween party, go to onestream.live and you can have.
This Halloween something wickedly exciting awaits you at OneStream Live. Will you be brave enough to choose? Choose your path. Will it be a trick or a treat? Only one way to find out. Pick your destiny and unlock surprises for your streaming journey. Enter if you dare this Halloween at OneStream Live. This Halloween.
That's what you need to do when you can create your own party yourself. And again, go to livestreamsolutions.org if you need to speak to me and my team on how to put all this together. And again, you know, whilst this is for Halloween, we create this for businesses. That's what we do day to day. Yeah, get in touch with any of us know that. And across the globe, that snuck in, didn't it? Oh, I don't do catsets.
This is Louis Longfather, Louis of the
Long.
I
am. I'm not. Jill's a cat person, but I'm not. But with dog people as well. I don't. I have this fear about coming back in another life as I'll come back in the spirit world as a rat or something, or as a vole or a mouse or something.
Yeah, no. If you could come back as a cat. They have an amazing life.
It's like the life of Riley. Right. So Mexico and Latin America, they had a thing called
Dia de la Muerte.
Yeah, that's one there where they really embrace, don't they? The whole bringing your ancestors and your spirits.
Oh, it's a big celebration in the graveyard and stuff. And no doubt, I'd imagine if it wasn't so cold and miserable in Ireland, we might do something similar. You know?
Yeah, I quite like the idea. We've also got this one as an alternative. I'm sure I knew her in a previous existence. But better.
You wish.
quite quickly. So that size 0 thing was a big thing in the 80s and 90s. As I was growing up. There we go. But it is across the globe. So when we were looking at a number of things, come across very similar. So two things in all seriousness. One is the cycle of life goes round in a season. Cycle of life goes round a year. Cycle of this goes round every so many thousand years. Doesn't matter who comes in and goes. The very basics of what we're talking about and Samhain, of the end of the harvest, the darker periods, it all ties in. So Romans came in, the Christians came in, those things are still there. And we take from each other, but it's the still cycle. So as you go around the globe in Mexico and Latin America, we've got that there. We've also got
the Irish got everywhere. Yeah,
Maman Brigitte.
Yeah. Like it's amazing how the Irish spread across, or the diaspora. You know, we're everywhere, and we're great storytellers, so we brought all of this with us, and because the Irish were living in the slums, which by the way comes from the Irish word slum to mean a miserable place. We're living in the slums, and we're there, and we're with people from all different cultures, so we're all merging there in the stories are blending together because this is such a core belief and fear of humanity, of winter. There's similarities, so they're crossing over and they're blending together. And so Maman Brigitte, she's from Haiti, and she is their only white goddess. She's married to the Baron, or she's the consort of the Baron, and he's the guy in the big top hat with the skull face, and she's their only white goddess, but she's red-haired, drinks rum, swears like a trooper. Tell me she's not our bridie. She's gone over that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking of Bridie, we're going to come on to her. So messages coming in on Facebook, particularly. Jill, hi Jill. Hello from downstairs with a shaking Bod and Luna after the ton of fireworks that's been going on. Jesus, lads, I know you enjoyed them, but think about the pets with you as well. Def Cassie clearly is fine. Shelley Taunton, the dark is so hard, but she loves the colour. Nick, I have my familiar Willow. They are amazing healers. And Dylan says little Louis is the cutest. So you just made me talk about Maman Brigitte, and we wanted to talk about Bridie, Bridget, St. Bridget. Tell us, because this girl's got some backstory. Jesus, if I thought you had a backstory, Mrs. Tell us about Bridget.
Well, Bridget is the flip side of who the earth is going to be now. So Bridget comes to us in February, and on St. Bridget's Day, which is also Imbolc, the day of that spring begins. And Bridget her journey starts thousands of years ago as the goddess of the Brigante, and they were a very powerful tribe who moved all across Europe, settling in various different places, and eventually some of them ended up here in Ireland, and they brought this goddess, Breed, the enlightened one, the high one, they brought her here, and she was worshipped so much here, that a little bit the same way as Samhain, that it was such a core part of the culture, that she actually, they couldn't get rid of this goddess, and so she became Saint Bridget, and she was known even as Mary of the Gauls because she was so beloved here. But the hilarious thing is, which I find quite funny, because obviously, like everybody else in Ireland, I went to a Catholic school or a Protestant school, but I went to a Catholic school, and the nuns were there, and every year we would weave our crosses together, and we would say prayers to Saint Bridget, But really what we were doing was just worshipping this ancient spring goddess, this ancient goddess of the land. And we were willing spring in and willing the land back to life. And, and she's the one who gives birth to the harvest at Lunasa before things change. And so Bridget is probably the most interesting saint we have. And I think that what the bit you're referring to is the fact that she's not recognized by the Vatican. She was dumped along with St. Christopher and St. Nicholas, probably because she wasn't really goddess, or she was great goddess material, but she wasn't really saint material. First of all, she's a lesbian. She lives her whole life with her partner. She a badass brewer and blacksmith. The best beer and could control fire basically. She's followed everywhere with a white cow with red ears. And she gave an abortion to a raped woman. So very unsaintly, but very badass goddessy. But of course, that lovely, warm, wonderful creature that Breed is now hitting menopause. And she's changing, and she's becoming the crone of winter, or the Kalyak. She has no more beeps left to give now. She's been working very hard all summer long, and she's provided us with this wonderful harvest. And now she says, leave us alone, because I'm going to go and sleep for 3 months and I'll be back in the spring. So, you know, poor old Bridget, she's now the menopausal crone. And as you know, Joe, menopausal women can be very quick to say, no, I'm not doing that. And that's where the land is now. It's not going to warm up for you. Trees are not going to grow. Plants are not going to grow. And in fact, the folklore in Ireland says that from the 31st of October, nothing can be picked. Later folklore says, the devil spat on it, or the puka pees on it. But the kind of the general consensus is that the old beliefs were that anything left on the trees at this point belongs to the goddess of the land to sustain her through winter. But it's funny because the harvest at Lunasa, it's the harvest in the fields. It's all laid out as if it's like your mum setting the table, putting a plate in front of you. This harvest, the fruits, nuts and berries, you have to go look for it. So it's like when my children come home and they're looking for food, and I have hit the menopause. I'm gone. I'm done. I'm not cooking dinners anymore. So when they're like, come and looking for food, I'm like, look in the freezer. I'm sure there's a lasagna in the back there. Go and root. And this is the kind of harvest a Samhain is. You have to go out now and root hedgerows and find your rose hips and your sloes and your crab apples, and you have to go root in amongst the meadows, looking for your healing plants as well that you're going to need over the winter to keep you from catching colds and flus. So the land is changing now, and she'll become a little bit harder, but she's not selfish and cruel like the Wicked Witch. She's not like that. She just feels she's done enough for you now. She's given you everything you need, and if you don't survive winter, well, that's on you. So
yeah, and that's the cycle of life, or not, as the case may be. And you've got to believe it and go somewhere else. I'm just monitoring comments as they come in. My Gillian downstairs says she says she sounds fab. Jesus, you would. It sounds like somebody I know.
Yeah.
What else have we got? Mary Paget, forgive me, Mary. Good evening and happy Halloween from Courtown Harbour, Conistarsu. Mary, we hope you are well. Falsharot to you. So, what I want to do now, actually, for those of you who are watching, we got a couple of bits of music. Which is your favourite bit of music out of these three? So we'll play all three, and then you can put up, and then we'll pick a win at the end of the night. Because we're going to talk about what we're going to talk about now. We're going to talk about costumes and where all that came from, guising and all that type of stuff as well, and Jack of Lanterns and bonfires. The bonfires coming up. So, but which of these? This is option number one. So there we go. You got three options. Option one, option two, or three. Which is your favourite bit? We'll play that bit at the end for you. And we're this was crazy and crazy as nice going on. Rituals and beliefs. costumes. So the whole thing about souling and guising, and again, a lot of this formed into over the ages into sort of the Christmas period with mummers and all stuff like that, didn't it? So, and trick and treating. Talk us through that, Lorraine.
Well, it's kind of believed that so because the veil is so thin, and remember that there's three worlds. There's the land of the dead, the land of the living, in between the land of the gods, or the land of the she, if you want. And on Samhain night and on Bealtaine night, 6 months from now, at the start of the light half, these veils are at their thinnest. So people from either side can pass through. Now, let's think for a moment. Let's pretend for a moment that the pair of us, Joe, are like the chieftain that lived in this area here at that back in the Iron Age, Mal Bo Kinshlock, Mal the Cow Kinsella. And let's pretend we've been out stealing cows, and we have managed to gather quite a few cows, but we've managed to kill a few people along the way. So at Samhain, these lads are going to be able to come back to life and potentially drag us away with them to the land of the dead. So if we go out, we're going to disguise ourselves. We're going to make sure that they think we're already dead, and then they leave us alone. And then, but at the same time, my granny, my great-great-great granny might pass by as well, looking for a visit. So I want to look after her. And then at the same time, the spirits of the land, the fairies, may well be out walking as well. So they might knock on the door, and they could be disguised as my grandmother or the fella I killed. So it all gets very, very confusing. So really, if you're going to go out that night, wear a disguise, whether it's a fairy or a dead person or whatever it might be. And if anybody knocks on the door that night, you give them something, because it could be a treat, it could be a trick, you give them something, because you wouldn't know who's knocking on the door, And
that leads us on. That leads us on to jack-o'-lanterns. So our good friends, the Americans, we all love you to pieces. You think that you invented Halloween. However, I have to point out to you that you're number 4 on the list, lads. Oh, and by the way, in Ireland, everybody says lads, whether it's boys or girls. So, ladies and gents, so we need no offence in the world of multi-gender systems, and we now find ourselves. So, you're lads. That's it. That's the way we work in Ireland. But Halloween, all right, Samhain, the Irish, first and foremost, the pagan Celts, then the sort of the Romans, then the Christians, Druids, whatever, all sort of came in as well, and then it went to America, really through the Irish diaspora. So you're number 4, but you've given us some good things. We look at because there was a
pumpkins are fantastic.
Exactly. Propensity. Pumpkins are softer and more malleable to use than these things. Although I love when people take the time, and here in Cortown and River Chapel and all around Wexford, it's quite a big thing. But I don't think you can beat Jesus. That would scare me. If I saw that in somebody's window, I'd be going, Jesus, lads, I'm staying away. So
it's pretty horrible.
I don't need another Mars bar. I'll wait till Christmas and I'll sing you a carol.
No, it does look a bit like a severed alien head or something, all right. And can you imagine that lit up now with a candle inside, with the eyes glowing, looking at you? So, not good. It
isn't. But that leads us on to the story of Stingy Jack. Tell us about Stingy Jack.
So Stingy Jack was a chap. Now, there's lots of stories about this Stingy Jack fella, because it depends. He got around a bit, it appears, because there's different stories in different parts of the country, In some cases, Jack was basically very naughty, really, and he was a chancer. As we'd say in Ireland now, cute whore. He was absolutely fantastic at getting away with murder. And so in some stories, he tricks the devil. In some stories, he traps the devil. But I like the one where he actually tricks the devil, and he actually ends up becoming a very, very wealthy man. But he traps the devil at one point, and he kind of he has to make a deal to let the devil. So the devil will he makes a deal with the devil that he'll be allowed to live forever, and. But eventually he gets bored of this. He gets bored of being alive. So he sets the devil loose. Now, time goes by. He's not ready to die immediately, like, but he's ready to. He's been alive a very, very long time, and eventually the time comes when he says, right, I am ready now to go. And he gets into his bed and he falls asleep, and he, to the mortal world, Jack is gone. But Jack is there out in heaven now, knocking on the pearly gates, asking to be let in. But they won't let him in because he did a deal with the devil. So obviously he's not getting into heaven. So he has no choice but to go downstairs and knock on hell's gates and ask for admission. And the devil takes one and he's like, there's no way you're getting in here. There's no way. You had me trapped for centuries. There's no way you're getting back in here. And so he picks up a lump of coal and throws it at Jack and kind of, here, you can have that, and slams the gate closed. So Jack now has nothing to do, nowhere to go, and has this piece of coal, so which burns eternally because it's a piece of coal from hell. So he picks up a turnip and he carves it out and he puts the coal in. And he said to wander the lands of Ireland and wander the world forevermore, never able to get into heaven and never able to get into hell because he was such a devious schleveen in real life. So yeah, I have to say, I don't know if you've ever tried carving a turnip, Joe. It's not easy, and I don't really know how he managed it, but I've tried it and I've given up.
Yeah, it is a bit on the hard side. But to be fair, I think for authenticity, we're talking about pumpkins and turnips. Authenticity, I think that you have got to say. So tell us while it's up there, because we're going to talk about the music again. We had lots of answers in for that. Thanks very much. Keep those guests coming in. We'll tell you who's leading at the moment. But there's a pumpkin and there's the original sweet turnip. There. Which would you rather have? Which you think is more scary? Which is more effective? The pumpkin, adopted by our American and North American cousins, or the Jesus, there's a black cat now. I'm just going to put this on full because Jesus, I'm a
little too Leo.
Jesus, so which is your choice? Pumpkin is one. And Jack is two. So pumpkin is one, Jack is two. Give us your answers for those as well. And that other cat that you had in before has just gone off and said to its mate, Jesus, that big fella calls himself a warlock. He's scared of cats. We can't be doing this. So the black cat's in there now. So look, these bears, my arms are going through. Right. Let's get all serious for a minute. We've got tons of answers. So Nicola Gaffney says option one. Jill downstairs says defo option one. Nick also comes back in and says, yeah, the costumes would disguise yourself from the spirits wandering on Halloween. Absolutely. Kyle David Allen says one. Paddy Doyle option. Good evening, Paddy. To you. I hope you're well. My mother's on. Eileen. Hope you and the old man are well. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Is option one again. And Shirley Thornton up in Dublin says option two. So there we are at the moment. Option one. So just to play them again, this is option one, which is winning by a mile at the moment. Here we go. And that was option three, which got no. So option one, way out in front at the moment. So keep those coming in. And remember to tell us which you prefer. Do you prefer pumpkin is one, Jack of Lantern is two for your favourite version. And we've just heard a great story there from Lorraine on Stingy Jack. I'll tell you one of the things that I did miss before was Dumb Supper.
Yeah, the Dumb Supper. The Dumb Supper is a newer thing. It's a kind of a new neo-pagan thing, and it's actually, and talking about stealing things. This is something that I love, and I've kind of done here, and it's similar to that idea of trick or treating. It's the idea that if you're sitting down, and this is lovely actually, if you're not a house that does trick or treating, maybe you're out in a rural area or you're in an apartment. You set the dinner table, but you place one extra setting at the table and you fill the plate with food. And it's ideal if you can leave the food outside that night. Maybe a passing animal or something will take it. But it's the idea that this place setting, while you might look at it, it's an empty chair, but actually perhaps there's a series of relatives passing through and eating the spirit of the food. A little bit like the Mexican tradition of bringing food to the grave, that the ghost of the food is consumed by the ghosts of the dead, you know. So I think it's a lovely idea, the dumb supper. It's a silent person sitting there, you know.
It is. And our dogs, Luna especially, she'd be Luna, she'd be eyeing up thinking, Jesus, there'd be no spirits having that tonight. There's only one thing getting that tonight, and that's a miniature schnauzer called Luna.
Well, like, there you go. Like, I mean, like, just thinking about, you know, the dogs and stuff, you know, like you and I, you know, like both our homes are animal homes. And, you know, one of the things that we do here, and we've done for years, is we'd have, like the dumb supper in a way, we'd have a small ancestors altar. Now, when I say ancestors altar, it sounds very, you know, an altar, but it's actually the mantelpiece here in the kitchen, and the mantelpiece is kind of the central focus of our house. So everything gets piled on it, and so it's kind of in a weird way. If you worship your own home in your family, it's the family altar, you know. Anyway, because everything of note goes on it. So we would clear off the mantelpiece and put up pictures of friends and family and pets who have passed away, and it's a really lovely way of displaying your ancestry, your family, who you've come from and who they are and what they've done to get you here. And actually, if you have small children, it's a really cool way of talking about death and remembering people. Like my mother might come in and go, oh, that was my granny now, girls. I remember. Let me tell you a story, you know. Or somebody come in and go, oh my God, is that Mark? Wasn't he so handsome? You know. And it gets people talking about the dead. And like, so having a dumb supper or having a little ancestors altar, it's a lovely way to honor your passed away family members and pets.
it is, and we do that all the time for those who our love fairy family who have passed over Rainbow Bridge, and you know, it's taken that a stage further now with the development of what we've got in the digital world now. So, for example, we're going to be creating from next year a 4-part series that captures your life, 25% of your life, depending on how old you are. And we're going to put that together. So it's a modern day, like, if you like, this is your life. It's creating that memory forever. Because we should do, because in the fast-paced world we find ourselves, we forget about 2 generations ago very, very quickly.
Very quickly.
But we've got to, so that's something else coming. The one of the things that fascinates me on the back of what you said before about St. Patrick and the lights and Hill of Tara was the original climate change. And that really caused an awful lot of the way the Celtic pagan traditions around Samhain lived and did their stuff. Explain that to us.
Yeah, so in the, you know, like in the 500s there were, and in the 300s there was a couple of climatic events and weather events where we had very, very, very hard winters, and you know, a lot of historians will agree that this is kind of how Christianity was spread, because people felt that their gods had abandoned them and were maybe open to being converted to a new religion or open to seeing things differently. And you know, like when we looking back with our eyes, and again, it's helpful to know that to look back and kind of see the world from their perspective. In that, like, there was over 200 days off a year. A medieval peasant had much nicer life than we did. He had much more time off than we did. Maybe he didn't have as nice a life now, to be honest, but he had much more time off than we did, and a huge amount of holy days. But there were rules that the holy days were all linked with farming, with living off the land, and so when the weather catastrophically changed and the winters seem to last forever, I suppose, you know, you are going to look, you know, for what's gone wrong. Have I pissed off God? Like, why is he starving? Why are all my neighbors dying of plague and the crops aren't growing, you know? So You'll you know, and in times like that, when death is so close, it just makes you, I suppose, it makes you very, very conscious of just how tenuous the link is between our world and the world of the dead, you know, and the world of the gods.
Cabbage roots and fire jumping. And that leads us into that, because again, I'd come across some of these things that I didn't know, and they fascinate me.
Well, so yeah, the cabbage roots. This is brilliant. So Samhain nights or Halloween nights over the years, you know, they have evolved over the years, and in the last few decades or whatever, Halloween is a night for celebration, a night, you know, before the winter comes in, everyone has a few drinks together, everyone settles down, has a bit of a party, a bit of a ceilidh in the house and stuff. And so if you look up Dúchas, the Irish Folklore Commission, and type in Halloween or Samhain traditions, you have any amount of party games, and some of them are hilarious. And I think the cabbage root one is my favorite because it's so naughty, and I just like to think of my granny doing this. My granny passed away a few years ago, so I love to think of my granny as a young girl doing this with her sister. A group of girls will go into a field on Samhain night, and they will pull up cabbages from the ground, and what they were looking for was the root of the cabbage, because the more girthier the root of the cabbage, the better the husband that awaited them, and the more earth attaching itself to this nice girthy root, the wealthier he would be. So can you imagine the laughter, like running around a cabbage field in the dark doing this, you know, half afraid that a fairy might find you at the same time, you know, like, so the giddiment of it. And like, we've all of these different games, all of them, but the one thing they all have in common, whether it's peeling an apple and throwing the apple peel over your shoulder to get the initial of the man you're going to marry, or whether it's you know, throwing hazelnuts into the fire with the mark of the person you fancy and the person you sort of kind of fancy, and you put them near the fire. The one that cracks and spits and jumps away can't take the heat, they're not the one for you. There's all of these games that you play at Samhain or at Halloween, but they all have one thing in common. What's coming? What do I need to know? What, you know, like, even if you take Barmbrack, for example, for those of you, the international visitors, Barmbrack, it sounds like barn, but it's B-A-R-M, and it actually means speckled bread. It's a fruit bread. And it's a delicious, delicious bread, but inside of it, there'll be certain things. And of course, the ring is the one that remains today. When you buy a brack in the shops today, every slice would have some future to be told. So it could be the rag, which might mean you're going to be poor. It could be the coin where you're going to be rich. It could be the ring, you're going to get married. Or it could be the nutshell, you're going to have to emigrate. But each slice told the future, what was coming. And again, that goes back to our deep fear of the dark. What's coming? What lies ahead? You know, so these little hints. But yeah, I think the cabbage thing is hilarious. I think it's so funny.
We've got two more things to talk about. One, we're going to food. That leads us into food. Nice little segue. Well done. And then we're going to talk about some of the fairy stories and myths, just to finish off with. But where are we? We're still on number one for the bit of music. Turnip number two. Nick Gaffney says, Nicholas says, the turnip looks more scary, so I picked two. Jill downstairs says, turnip is much grimmer and scary looking. Oh my God. Turnip is much grimmer and scary looking, but being smaller and harder to work with, maybe the frustration and the anger of the creator inhabits it. Right. That will be about right.
Yeah. I can see myself getting very annoyed with the turnip. So
yeah. Jesus, yeah. Well, we'll be having neither in this house, I tell you. That leads us on to a nice little segue into food. So you talked there about Barmbrack, top left-hand corner, as I'm looking at it.
Yeah, like Barmbrack. People don't realise how old Barmbrack is. The oldest recipe for Barmbrack comes from the 1st century. And that's the oldest written down recipe. Now, so it could well be much older than that. But interestingly, it doesn't sound very, very pleasant in some ways. It was just stone ground flour, honey, and blackberries mixed together into a griddle cake and cooked on the fire. So I'd say it was quite hard to eat. You'd probably need good teeth to eat it. But isn't it interesting that blackberries were available in October back then in the 1st century? Like, you'd be hard pushed getting them after August now, you know, so the climate change changing. There's also a lot of stews, and of course Colcannon, because Colcannon now would be a much later addition to Irish cultural menus, but the potato and the cabbage are both winter foods now that are going to be consumed throughout the year. And when you mix it in with butter and cream, I mean, it's pure heaven, absolute heaven. And then this is the time of the year now where the cattle are being brought into their winter pastures. A pig is going to be sold now, and like here in Gorey and down in Cortown as well. Of course, people would have kept a pig all year, and of course, the pig is sold to pay your rent, or the pig is sold for the landlord or whatever. But also, the pig is what feeds you through the winter. And here in Gorey, there is an article, an old newspaper article from a journalist visiting Gorey, and he comments on why the pig is inside the house with the tenant. And he's like, well, the pig pays the rent, so why wouldn't he be in the house? You know. But that poor pig would be slaughtered now at this time of the year. And you know, like, it's going to feed you for the winter, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got Colcannon there and Barnbrack, and very quickly before you answer that question, the nuts and berries and oats and the apples, they're all part of that bountiful harvest, that mistress harvest, for a better expression.
Yes.
Jesus
yes.
Christ.
And like
where that's come from, has given us during the year to then see us through winter.
Yeah. Like you know, like if we were talking earlier about apples and how important apples were, and they were absolutely a big part of the Roman celebrations. But, you know, under the Brehon laws, the crabapple tree is actually one of the more important trees. Crab apples today are very bitter to our taste today, but that's because we've been eating sugar for the last few hundred years. To our ancestors, they were delicious, and they, you know, like, so they were obviously a very important part of the food being carried into the winter. Things being pickled, things being turned into dried, things being roasted. You know, like, and apples, you know, you can lay those out and they'll stay relatively okay unless they get bruised, you know, all winter long.
Very, very finally on the food aspect of things. Let me just move it sort of after. In both Colcannon and Barnbrack, we used to put little bits in it. Tell people about that, because that's because I love that growing up with Christmas pudding and things. So same thing.
Well, it's like I was saying there a moment ago with the slices of each slice of the brack would contain something else. But yes, they would be mixed into the Colcannon. So you could be scooping out your Colcannon, and there is the ring. You're going to get married. That's the worst thing, actually. I cut the brack the other night and the ring came in. I took it out and I pushed it back into the brack. It wasn't happening. But you could put it into the Colcannon as well. There's the idea is hiding the future in the food again. We're looking to the future again, you know. But one thing, actually, Joe, that I think is really important to say is that, you know, like, because a lot of people would ask me, you know, oh, well, I'm in Florida and I can't get Barnbrack, or I'm in Spain and I don't know how to make Colcannon or whatever. This is a harvest festival honoring the land. So why would you go and look for food from the other side of the world? You look for what's local to you, what's come into harvest in the place that you live, and enjoy that, have a harvest feast. So if, like, you're down in Australia, because I know my friend Michelle is going to be watching this now later because they have the topsy-turvy thing. So Michelle, well, her because she's on the other side of literally the other side of the world, she's actually celebrating Bealtaine at this time of the year. But you know, when you're far away, the whole idea of the festival is to remember your ancestors and celebrate your land. So you know, eat what you have local to you. And I often say to people that one of my lovely Samhain traditions that I would have, and I haven't been able to get out yet, and I'm dying to get out, is go visit a local farmer's market. On the Taste Wexford website, they're all listed. But if you're in Wexford, but find a farmer's market and go buy yourself some fresh bread and some homemade jam, like that's coming from the land around you. Go get yourself a jar of honey from a local beekeeper, all of these things. And this is the easiest way to worship the land, is to buy something from somebody who made it with love, from your land.
Local, then global, where possible.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Big hello to my brother from another mother day, topping up in Ulster to the Topping family. Traditionally, my late granny would have made Hurleys of Boxty, and it was a great autumn.
Boxty. Yeah, Boxty. So that's a Nordy dish, and amazing, gorgeous as well.
It is indeed. In fact, there's a place there in Monaghan. I can't remember the name of it. Jesus, I'll get told off for advertising here now. But anyway, they do Boxty. Just brilliant. I love it. Absolutely love it. Love experiencing the different foods from around the globe. Myself and Jill lived around the globe. Great. Listen, music number one is still way, way out in front. Almost finished. Love it when it goes just crazy. And it looks like our Al fella Jack is way out in front. So to finish off tonight, before we play out with the winning music, I want you to talk us through three characters. I want to tell us about the Banshee.
So the Banshee, so first of all, the name Banshee, it literally means fairy woman. So the Banshee is part of the more dangerous fairies, because you have the trooping fairies and then you have the solitary fairies. So she's one of the solitary fairies. Now, the original Banshee is a goddess called the Morrigan. The Morrigan is a postmenopausal war goddess, so not a woman you want to annoy. She has long black hair that's greying, which she wears in long plaits with crow feathers on the end, because she can shapeshift into a crow whenever she likes. And if you're ever in the GPO in Dublin, you'll see a statue of the dying Cuchulainn, the Irish hero Cuchulainn, and a crow sitting on his shoulder waiting to peck his eyes out. So yeah, that's her. So she was the original Banshee, but today the Banshees, well, they are thought to be female fairy women that come to Irish families to warn them that somebody is going to die. If you hear the Banshee, you're not going to die, but somebody in your family will. Now, there is one exception to this, though. And this is if you pick up something that belongs to the Banshee, like her lantern or her comb. So if you ever find a lantern or a comb on a quiet country road, you leave it there. You don't touch it. Yeah. I was telling you a story I heard earlier about a house outside Ferns here in Wexford. And I heard this story from my granddad. And he swore blind, it was true, that now, I don't know the names or the house, so don't come at me asking. This is all I remember. But there was a house not far from Ferns, and there was a man out walking one night, and he came across a comb sitting on the bridge. It was sitting on a bridge, on the wall of the bridge. And here's this beautiful ornate comb. And this Egypt thought that it would be a good idea to take it home with him. He should have left it well alone, because it was very obviously the Banshee's comb. Like, it was just too ornate and beautiful to be of this world. But his eyes lit upon it, and he took it and he brought it home with him. That night, when the sun set, he was sitting in the house, and with him was his wife and his son. And as the sun set, as darkness came in over the land, a wind started whipping up outside. And within an hour or so, this wind was like hurricane levels. And yet, when they looked out the window, the trees weren't moving. There was nothing happening. There was no wind. And then the screaming started. Like a female fox, this scream, this endless, torturous scream of this woman going around and around and around the house. And pretty soon it was obvious the banshee had come for her comb, and they were all too afraid to open the door. So they used the fire, what are they called? The fire...
Bellows. Bellows.
Not bellows, the grips for picking up the coal and stuff.
Oh, right, yeah.
A fork, the fire fork, and they picked up the comb with it, and one of them opened the door just a tiny crack, and the other one just pushed out the comb, held in the fork, the tongs, that's the word, the coal tongs. He pushes out the comb in the tongs, and the whole thing, the tongs and everything, are whipped from his hands. And then it all stops. The screaming, the noise, everything, the wind just stops. And they open the door fully and they look out, and there in the moonlight, lying on the path, are the tongs, but this time these cast iron tongs are now all mangled up and the comb is gone. But so was the banshee, so they survived the night. So yeah, she's not a woman you want to piss off. She really is. And again, it goes back to that menopausal women thing. You know, you just don't want to piss us off. You know, what happened? The poor banshee.
Cute. Yeah. I'll make sure that I don't freudianly say banshee when I'm talking to somebody in the very near future.
The chic.
That would be then. So that's the banshee, and from the sheep people.
From ferns.
Berries from ferns as well.
Yeah.
Dullahan.
Yeah, the Dullahan. See, one of the things about the pumpkin and even the turnip head and Jack and all the rest, like one of the things that I think is interesting is that in the Celtic times, it was believed our soul resided in the head. Mm-hmm. And so if you took somebody's head, you took their soul, which prevented them from going into heaven or hell, or the land of the dead. And the Dullahan was one such case. He was a warrior, a Celtic warrior whose head was taken dishonorably in battle. And so he can't get into the land of the dead. And he can't stay in the land of the living. So he resides in the roots of the yew tree. But at Samhain, he emerges on horseback, and this horse is rotting and it's horrendous. It's like bits of it falling off. And he's there, this horrendously disgusting headless horseman. And people, if you are the descendant of the person that took the Dullahan's head, in your mind, you will hear him calling you. And it doesn't matter where you hide. It doesn't matter where you go. He can see through walls. He can see under beds. He can see into wardrobes, through trees. He will track you throughout the night. And if he finds you before dawn, he will take your head and your soul so that he can enter the land of the dead. Now, if you or I were to happen to see him out there, Joe, hunting, well, close your eyes, because if you're on a dark night and you hear the clip-clop of hooves behind you, you close your eyes, because he has a whip made from a human spine. And anyone who sees him out hunting, he will whip out their eyes. But the good thing is, he is afraid of one thing. He is afraid of gold. And so if you're out that night, when my kids were small, we'd go out with the chocolate coins. Keep a couple of chocolate gold coins in your pocket.
Roll them off.
Throw them at him. Yeah, because these are the characters you might see out on a Halloween night, and don't forget, going back, remember we were talking about a certain area live nearby here. And the idea of going for a long walk from one town to another, it could take you a couple of hours and the sun is setting, and you have all of these spirits and ghosts and monsters around. But you also have very real threats, because in the early Middle Ages, Ireland was still heavily forested. You had packs, and that's the only way to describe them, packs of young men who lived as bandits in these woods, attacking travellers. And down the road from us is a village called Monamalin. It's all right. It's a lovely little village these days, and they're very lovely people. We don't want to piss them off, because Monamalin used to be the home of a crannog. And for those of you who don't know what a crannog is, it's a man-made island within a bog. And this was an ancient bog forest, very dangerous, very treacherous. You could step off the path and you wouldn't know it, and you're down into bog water and gone forever. And these bandits in Monamalin use this to their advantage, because on a very cold, hard winter, you might find yourself not only robbed, but also ending up in the pot. So the cannibals of Monamalin were real.
We'll be not stopping there for petrol in future. That's for sure. Just to be on the case. Just before we finish off with one final one, we've Shirley Thornton says, thanks very much for the interesting chat. Nick says, absolutely, Nicola Gaffney, absolutely love the stories, legends and histories chatted tonight. Thanks, Lorraine and Joe. Mary Padgett in Courtown says, you can't beat a good Wexford Col Cannon. So that's it. We got one final one to talk about, which is Derek Doom. And this always reminds me of Derek Doom by the great band the Horslips, which is about Culcullen, the Red Destroyer. So Derek Doom.
Yeah, so Derek Doom, well, this is a beautiful woman, rather than a bunch of hairy men from the 1970s playing badass guitar. No, the Derek Doo is one of the, we have so many stories in Ireland, and we're so lucky that our stories actually go back 5,000 years to the likes of the Doulahan and Cuchulainn and all of these. But stories are constantly being created and they're alive. And so this last story, Derek Doo, is about a woman who was said to have been married off to a very, very, very cruel man by her father. But this man was very wealthy, so the father was going to be looked after in his old age. So he thought it was a fair deal. But this poor young one was in love with a penniless boy from the village, of course, And when she gets married, she gets locked away in a room, and her husband, he's so cruel to her. In order to try and make her behave and do what he wants her to do, he goes into a room at night and he cuts her. And hundreds, thousands of tiny cuts. It's literally death by 1,000 cuts for this poor woman. And she manages on more than one occasion to get a note out to the boy that she loves. But the boy is cowardly and he doesn't do anything to help her. He leaves her where she is. And so the inevitable obviously happens. The poor woman bleeds to death. And her husband finds her one morning in her locked room, bled out, not a drop of blood left in her. And so she's buried. She's buried in the local graveyard, and everybody's very sorry for the poor widow and all the rest. And everybody knows what really went down, but nobody's saying anything, And a year passes and we come to Samhain. And that night, nobody knows what happens, Joe, but that young boy, nobody knew what happened. That young fella, he ends up being found on November the 1st in his bed, and not a drop of blood left in him. And this was a terrible thing to happen, And so the local people wondered, did she come back? Did she come for him? But nobody was quite too sure, So nobody said anything the first Samhain. But the second Samhain, another young, handsome boy who was very popular with the girls but wasn't all that nice to everybody else, found himself bled to death. And so it transpires that this girl had decided to come back. Her anger and her disappointment in the young man and her father and this brute that had killed her, that she decided she was on a vendetta. And she comes back every Samhain and she looks for young, handsome men. And it's specifically young, handsome men. So if you're out wandering around and you see a very beautiful but very pale woman, stay well away. I mean, you're grand if you're you're grand if you're older or whatever, but if you're a young, handsome man, yeah, I know, Joe, you should be grand. You should be grand.
Face the radio and say from Derek Doo, it would appear.
There you go. But yeah, no, and look, she's Waterford based anyway. We should be good here in Wexford. We should be good. Yeah.
Just to finish off, where are we? Mel McVeigh says, thanks so much for sharing your knowledge. And there we go. And the winning, so it is Listen, the winning Jack the Lantern one and option one for the music one as well. Listen tonight, ladies and gents. It's 20 minutes over the witching hour that I wanted to have. But it's been absolutely thrilling. Lorraine O'Dwyer, how can we get hold of you? How can people find out more about Samhain and about folklore and about foresting?
Oh, gosh. Well, yes, you can find out more about me on my website, Gallivanting.ie. I will be going into hibernation for my walks now. I have a walk tomorrow, and then I have a walk on Halloween night, or Halloween day itself, and then I am going into hibernation until the spring. But I am on social media, and you will find me making all my little bits. So you can find Gallivanting.ie on social media. You'll find information. If you want to find out more about Samhain and things like that, there is my blog on Taste Wexford, and it's full of lots of information about Samhain. But I'm hopefully going to be putting up a lot more information on my own website over the winter months, because this is my downtime now to start writing. So a lot of stuff is going to be going up on the website over the next while. So keep an eye on that. And maybe in the spring you'll come gallivanting, because, yeah, as you said, Joe, they're amazing walks. Sure, we first met in the woods. So which sounds really dodgy, but, you know.
It's a core town thing.
It is a core town thing.
It's a core town thing.
Yeah,
you know,
it is.
For those who are watching across the globe, big going, Jesus, that fucking core town thing. There's some danger going on there all year round. Like, you know, it's just like,
oh, sure, I know.
And we have the fifth Earl of Core Town to thank for doing all that. But if you want, seriously, if you are ever in Ireland, come down to Core Town, because it is a magical place and there's so much history here. We can always arrange. So there we go. Taste Wexford with Chef Anthony for all your stuff and Gallivanting.
Oh yeah, because I'm going to give little Chef Anthony now their little plug as well. If any of you are passing through Ballycanoe and you're Wexford based and you're looking for something to celebrate the harvest, look up the Fat Tomato. It's a fantastic name, the Fat Tomato. Anthony has an amazing garden just filled with incredible things, and I do quite a bit of foraging for him. So he's not with us this evening because he's making a hedgerow jelly, and literally hedgerow fruits only, sloes, halls, rose hips, all these lovely things all cooked up together. So Fat Tomato, go and visit his shop and get something to celebrate the harvest.
Listen, Lorraine O'Dwyer, thank you for your knowledge and imparting that. It's been a thoroughly enjoyable evening. We've covered everything from Samhain through the Romans, through the Christians, and the whole thing about actually the world is just a cycle. It's a menopausal woman with a little bit of menopause thrown in from the blokes who survived the winter. And I think it's surviving, not pissing off the menopausal woman in their life. That's how they survive. So if you see me next March, then you'll be lucky. But before then, we've got another series of these coming in December when we're looking at the whole of 4 weeks. Every Tuesday I'll be looking at Christmas, the festive area, Yule, Saturnalia, and the whole history of Christmas all the way through. But for tonight, a phenomenal amount of knowledge and story shared. It's a Shanghai's heaven tonight, and I'm glad that I could share my home. That me and Jill have a small little home, and there she goes again. There's Jill. Normally, she'd have the sign. I'm saying, "You don't get anything."
This is real. This is real. There's me broomstick and everything. Mine moves. Can you move your stuff?
Yeah, listen, you've got your hat there as well, just to finish off.
I do. This is my woodland one. I have my fancy one for going out, and this is just my nice woodland one. So you'll see me going out to the market with this.
To everybody who has joined us tonight and engaged with us, and I'll do so. Thanks very much for your knowledge. There we go. Thanks very much. It's been a real pleasure to do. And the winning aspects of the competitions tonight were it's Scary Jack, and it's theme number 1. Enjoy yourselves, stay safe over Samhain, and don't mess around with the ghosts. Take care. get the. Hang on. I can't get tune number one to play. The Spirit. You know what this is? The Spirit. I'm going to do another way around. The Spirit and that the Spirits are telling me that they don't actually like number one. So all of you out there choosing number one, I don't go to sleep tonight because the Spirits actually wanted number two. It would appear so there's only one, but we'll try it this way instead and see. But the winner is actually this. What is going on? Okay, well, we'll play them in reverse. Or we'll play
It's the fairies show. It's the fairies. The pukas.
Which is fair enough. Which is fair enough. And that is that is the last dad joke you're going to get out of me tonight. Let me just go back, and now that I've come out, and go back in again and see whether I can find our winning bit of music, because we love our bit of music, being you, the people who are... Here we go. We'll have to play. I can't. The music won't play. So what we'll do is we'll leave you with Scary Jack. Be careful, and if you see this.